Welcome back to part 2. We're going to continue working on our cub. And I'm going to use my 4B charcoal pencil to add the hair on the legs of the cub. I'm drawing in that back foot that's just behind the front legs. And adding the stripes as needed, like we did previously to the cub. I'm going to speed this up a little bit for you while I add all of these little dark hairs with my pencil to my cub all the way down to the tip of his tail. Now I am base coating the leg with 409.7, which is a burnt umber. Going back and forth, not too worried about it being particularly even. It will become more even as we add more color to the fur. I'm covering the paw as well, and the back foot, and the front leg. I continue base coating the back leg and the tail as well. I put some gray, as you'll notice, in the stomach area, which is going to be white later on. So I'm going back to my same set of colors. This is 263 Indian Red, and I'm going to add some darker browns, some red brown, in the stomach area of the cat, making sure my strokes go in the direction that the fur grows. And then by using this 32 Conte pastel pencil, I can go back and forth and blend this into the brown hair that was previously applied. So you can see this helps me to blend back and forth. There's a couple of little places. I'm using some cordovan up here, but there's a couple little places on this leg. Now I'm using a little black over that. They're almost like cowlicks. The hair swirls around in kind of an interesting pattern. And we'll go into the details of that more as we come to each one, which is another reason why a reference photo is so important. So I'm just adding some black in between the toes. So on the back foot, I use the brown, 353 brown first, and then the black. So I'm going over this to darken it down. It is in the background. And this little edge is the back leg. You have to study the photograph to see that, but that's what it is. So I'm going to darken it and then continue to use my 263 Indian red on this front leg. There are darker areas of fur on the leg, but the stripes are less defined. Now I'm using the 259 dark gray to add shadows in the stomach area that are going to be white later on, going to be white fur. This is 353 cordovan, darkening those stripes. I continue adding browns in the same manner as previously. Now in the stomach area that's going to be white, I'm using the 259 dark gray to add even more dark gray to this area. And there are a few stripes on the tail, so I'm going to darken a couple areas on the tail with the 353 and the 229 black. I'm darkening the tip of the tail now with the 263 and then 353 and probably a little bit of black. Before we can add our final hairs, we need to put a little background in around this cub. So I'm putting down a base coat layer of 704.7, which is just a light gray. You can see that's a little scar on the paper, but that's okay. We're going to cover it up with other stuff, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm just giving it a light layer. And we'll have more layers on top of it that will help bring this background together. Now I'm going to add a dark brown, which is a Rembrandt 538.5 Mars Violet. I'm not going to go all the way to the top. This is going to help create our wooded background. I'm going to go about a third, about halfway up on the cat. And over that, to kind of help blend it in, I'm using a lighter color, a gray-green, a 709.7, and then I go back and add a little more brown over top of that. This is the 709.7 gray green. I'm putting in between the legs of the cub. And then adding the 538.5 over that. I'm doing the same in between this leg, adding the 7097 before adding the 538. It just helps it blend a little bit better. Now on this left side, you can't see through my hand, but I'm holding a 709.7 gray-green. I'm just going over the previously applied light gray. This adds more color and helps to push the other gray into the background. So each layer helps the background to get smoother and smoother, which is going to really set off our cat. And we do the background first so that we can pull the final hairs out into the background instead of working the background around the hairs. To add the gray-green to the background, working back and forth gently, covering the background, going around the face of the cat on both sides. Now I'm going to add another color. This is 627.2 Cinnabar Green Deep. Now this is a very hard dark green color, but I am pushing it, cross-hatching it over the previous colors, and it helps the background to get smoother and smoother as we go. Now, it's going to grow a skin on it, so you have to sand it and then come back and apply more. The greens and blues in the Rembrandt line, the really dark ones, will do that because of the binder that's used. And so you have to sand them quite often. we're working another third of the way up, and this is going to be our forest kind of background. So we want it to be kind of uneven. We don't want it to be super even. So I'm not making the edge kind of jagged, but I do want it to be smooth as it goes down towards the brown portion of the background. Now I'm going to add a sky color. This is 506.7 Ultramarine Deep. And this is perfect. It's a bright blue, but when you put it over the gray-green and the cinnabar green, it's a very nice color. Now we're going to lighten this up some with a lighter color, a 570.8 phthalo blue, or if you happen to have a 522.8 turquoise blue, that works as well. And then you can see I blend the green back over it. So I'm going back and forth until I get just the right blend of colors I want. This is looking very good. It's becoming very even and very smooth and creating a nice background for us to paint our woods on top of. So I keep adding those colors. I need to go a bit darker. So I'm using 700.5 black, both in the green area and over the brown area, up next to the cat, to get a nice blend. I'm also adding a little black on the bottom of the chest area. Well, it's not really, it's the bottom of the chest, but it's also between the legs. I want those to be quite dark, so I'm using the black there as well. Now I've turned my picture upside down, and I'm going to paint, which I often do, to paint the background, especially to make it easier on my hand because I don't want to drag my hand through my painting, through the subject of my painting. So I've turned it upside down to add the background. I'm going to speed through this for you because I've already told you how to do it, and we're going to do it all the way around the cub. So we've sped all the way through this section using the same colors. The 538.5 Mars Violet, the 627.2 Cinnabar Green Deep, the 700.5 Black, 506.7 Ultramarine, 570.8 Phthalo Blue, or 522.8 Turquoise Blue. And here we are, back upright again. Now I'm using the round edge of the 627.2 Cinnabar Green Deep to make a ragged edge like the background of the tree line. So if I use it on the end, I can just kind of cross hatch little dark areas in there. I don't want it too uniform because this is supposed to be like the forest. So I'm doing the same thing on the other side. I'm using the bottom rounded edge of the 627.2 Cinnabar Green Deep to make that ragged background edge. I need a little more light blue, so I'm using my blues in the background. I always add things as I see it. Join me for part 3 as we continue painting our mountain lion cub.